to Orlando for the first edition of our new Executive Retail Roundtable series. The TRBusiness Forum has brought its cameras to the Orlando World Centre Marriott Resort to discuss the performances, challenges and expectations from the 4 leading travel retailers in the 10 billion plus duty-free market of the Americas. Today we are joined by Pancho Motta, IAA DFS President and Chairman Motta International, Enrique Uriosti, CEO Neutral Duty Free, Joe Lyons, Vice President Business Development DFS Group North America, and John Bolger, Regional Manager Arianta International North America. We hope you enjoy the first TRBusiness Forum. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, William Grant & Sons and Maui Jim, for supporting this event.
A parting glass, good night and joy be with you all. Just give me your hand, tour dum the love, oh tour dum the love. Okay boys, glass is up, it's time to go.
Come on, Sal.
Welcome to the United States, and a big welcome to our distinguished panel. Today, Charlotte and I will be asking 4 wide-ranging key questions to all of our panelists, covering several markets in the Americas. So I'd like to start proceedings by addressing the first to International Association of Airport Duty-Free Stores President and Chairman of Motta International, Pancho Motta. Welcome, Pancho.
Thank you.
What would you describe as the highlights in the Americas market for your business in 2012, and how have your retail operations performed in the first quarter of 2013?
Well, for us, I would say the main difference compared to some of the other sections of the world is that we've had a growing economy. We have an economy that's growing in Central America and most of South America, which helps the tourist industry, helps the business industry, helps travelers, which helps our businesses. And at the same time, by having a growth in our nations, the airlines have started to grow also. We have new flights, more flights. Iberia, I think, is starting a new flight to Asunción. Chile is growing, Panama is growing. We would have to give credit to some of the airports. Bogota just opened in October, an international wing, whole terminal for flights, which helps let our businesses grow. Panama is adding on another 10 gates. They just added 10 gates on. Copa is doing well. They have expanded throughout Central and South America and the Caribbean. So I would say the main goal that has helped us is the economic growth.
And you've actually had 2 years of good growth, haven't you, in your part of the world?
We've had a little bit more than 2 years, which is good.
Move to you, John.
Well, I think 2012 was challenging for us. In Montreal and in Eastern Canada, we're more subject to the European passengers. They've been dropping, so that's affected us certainly. So it's been a tighter business for us. We still had another record year in 2012, despite lower passengers, and that's continued through the first 3 months of this year. So it's certainly tighter, so it's making us work harder to keep where we are at the moment.
Joe, to you.
Yes, DFS Group LP, which is responsible for the Americas, consists of DFS North America, which I represent, and DFS Hawaii. And we had several highlights during the year. First of all, and you attended the 50th anniversary of DFS Hawaii operating the duty-free concession at Honolulu International Airport. That was capped by a nice increase in sales because of a nice increase in passengers from People's Republic of China. In North America, we had basically two highlights. First of all, in Los Angeles, we were successful in winning and were awarded the rights to the airport-wide duty-free concession for 10 years against a very spirited group of competitors. It was transparent and wide open, so it was quite the competitive process that we went through. And that was very important for us because since we arrived in Los Angeles in 1982, it has been our regional headquarters. It is the sixth largest airport in the U.S. and really the gateway to and from the Asia-Pacific region for the U.S. In addition, the airport is undergoing a massive modernization program of over $3 billion. And that's highlighted by the Bradley International Terminal, which I think you've all seen. And that modernization will include converting the stores to post-security from pre-security, one of the last remaining stores, and building a great hall and expanding the facilities. We'll have in that facility 23,400 square foot core product shop, and we'll also have 9,900, don't ask me why 9,900, it's happened to come out that way, of boutiques, luxury boutiques, and including Gucci, Hermes, Burberry, and separately a great collection of watch, accessory, and sunglass shops, which will round out the offer there. So that's big for us. And after that, we'll start developing all the other stores there. The second and third highlight was JFK International Airport, where we started the concession when the building opened in May 2001, after which came 9/11. So it's been quite the adventure. And they now will convert the duty-free, pre-security duty-free shop to a post-security shop. In fact, it has been converted. And we will develop 12,000 square foot of shopping space in that hall. Secondly, within that terminal, Concourse B will be greatly expanded by 8 gates and 6,200 square feet of retail to accommodate Delta passengers. What will happen is Terminal 3, which you may know as, some of you may remember as the old Pan Am terminal, will be demolished. So all the passengers from Delta Terminal 3 will check in and depart from Terminal 4. So that we think will be a combination of additional square footage and additional sales. And the third and last point is in San Francisco, where we started renovation during that year of our 28-store master retail and duty-free concession. And we actually completed 2 boutiques by the end of December. So it was a good, positive year with a number of highlights.
Quite some year for you then, isn't it?
It's been it was a good year there. It's a good year.
And how about you, Enrique, down on the Uruguayan border? And how's it been for you?
Well, our situation is quite similar to what Pancho described. The region has been growing in a consistent way for the past decade. During that period of time, Brazil, who is one of the engines of this growth, has added into the consumption market 40 million new consumers. Consumers who, for example, have access for the first time in their life to a credit card. Brazil, having said that, is still a closed economy with high taxation on imports, so the price differentiation between duty-free and domestic market also is big. The availability of product is quite difficult, especially in any city outside of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. So this is basically one of the most important key driver in the business. We acquired the operation in 2011, and we heavily invested in CapEx during 2011 and 2012. We grew the retail space from 6,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet. introducing and doing a copy and paste from our friends in DFS with not that luxury upscale, but yes, introducing the concept of shopping shops of different fashions. We brought in the Gap or brands that were not present at the market, like Benetton, for example. So we're really optimistic, and we think it was a great year. The first quarter already is showing double-digit growth against last year, so we are more than comfortable with the investments we're doing.
I probably need to ask you the $64,000 question is, will the Brazilians be allowed to buy on the Brazilian side with this new law allowing border stores?
I'm not sure. But I guess they will, and I am in favor that they will. And it's all a matter of how you approach business in life. I am the one who likes to make the football court bigger and not smaller. If the Brazilians can buy on the Brazilian side, this means that now I can attend to a whole 150 plus market. This means that now I can start advertising. Remember that for the past 25 years, it's been a mouth-to-mouth communication of the fact that the border stores were there. Now with the Brazilian law being passed and being firm, if the IRS, the Brazilian IRS, sets the regulation allowing Brazilians to buy, this means that we can add in São Paulo, we can add in Rio, and we can offer packages for a 3-week holiday to do shopping, to do golfing, to do water parks, to do gambling, to do whatever. So basically, we will have an audience that is much bigger than the 6 million people we have right now.
Great opportunity then.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
We're going to ask you guys if you can sort of stare into your crystal ball a little bit and ask you how optimistic you are about 2013 being a good year for the business. And I'd like to throw that question to John first.
Okay, well, I think for us in particular, there's one very positive thing for us, which is that the US customs rules are changing, going across to the US, on the US customs side. There's been a $100 limit up to now, and that's changed now. So basically, up to $200 if there's duty, and over $200, it's actually unlimited if there's no duty payable. So that's going to help us very much in our transborder shops. As I mentioned earlier, it's certainly more challenging on the international side, like people going to Europe and everything else, but we're much more focused now on our marketing side. I think we've got great opportunities there to actually expand that. At the end of this year, we're actually in the middle of renovating our international store in Montreal, which will be open at the end of this year or early next year. So that's going to give us a great platform for 2014 onwards.
And do you think, you were saying that things are changing, do you think that consumers are going to be aware of that change, and how can you help educate them that has changed?
Well, I think to be honest, I think if you take North America, I'm from Ireland, so I'm more used to kind of the European view of duty-free. Duty-free is not very, very well known in North America. And that's one thing we want to focus on, particularly with the new shop, really to promote what duty-free is and make sure, just to educate people as to exactly what it is. Because people don't actually realise what the savings are and what the offers are.
So that will be a big focus for you. Okay, on to Joe.
Actually, we're quite optimistic for the first quarter for our sales. Sales in Los Angeles have been strong, and we're budgeted for the region well above last year, which itself was a good year. In JFK, the main shopping area has been 2 weeks ago converted to post security, and DFS will open new and expanded stores in that area in spring and late summer. The new stores in Concourse B, which faces Delta, will open in May, when Delta's current Terminal 3 will be demolished, and passengers will check in at Terminal 4 and proceed out of Concourse B. And there we're increasing the facility significantly. And in Concourse A, in the other concourse, we'll also be doubling that shop to 2,200 square feet. So we're quite optimistic about that as well. In San Francisco, we've had an ongoing major renovation period, which will be completed in 2013. So we're off, despite the construction, to a good sales year on that as well. So we're quite, optimistic about how that will continue on when we add some new flights and also finish the construction.
It's nice to hear that you're so optimistic about the future, and it sounds like it's going to be
Oh, we're off to a good start.
another exciting year. Okay, and on to Enrique.
Well, we're really optimistic. The optimism is based on the macroeconomics. As you well know, the key driver for Latin America is the commodity prices. We don't foresee any kind of changes there. So we think that we will have this year and probably next year a solid income of inflow of exports. Number two, we have a status quo in the exchange rate between reales and dollars that we don't see any major change there. We can see some soft move, but we think that the exchange rate won't suffer big changes. And finally, we have all the events that will happen in Brazil, the Latin American Cup, the World Cup, and then the Olympics. And I think that those events by itself, together with the two macros that I mentioned before, should help to drive more tourism and to make the economy grow. On our side, on our controllable facts, as I just mentioned before, we had done a big investment, and we are doing now more investments. We are partnering in the development of a big shopping mall, 33,000 square meters, with a Sheraton hotel inside of it, with a casino. And other groups are coming to invest in different activities that are complementary to a shopping destination. We are seeing new bids that are being prepared for hotels and casinos. We are seeing some projects of water parks. So this goes hand in hand with what I mentioned before, that is, the border is preparing itself to receive tourism from different parts for not just a day shopping, but a 2-3 day shoppings. Kind of what Macau was to China. This is what I think that we will see sometime.
I understand there was some volatility with the Brazilian currency, particularly between sort of May and October last year. And you're saying that, for what you can't really guarantee, but you think that it's going to be more stable in 2013.
No, but even what happened last year, the volatility was during the period of May, August, and there wasn't a big drop or increase in the dollar price because it jumped from 180 to 220, which is a big gap, but immediately it went down to the range of 2. The problem that we had there was the intraday volatility, that it was going in within the same day. The quote was going from 190 to 220 and then coming down to 195. So that made people immediately stop spending, because the worst thing, our business, doesn't matter if it's a border or an airport, it's driven by knowing how much you're going to save. And if people don't know how much they're going to save because they don't know the exchange rate that 28 days later the credit card will bring to them, then the sales drop. And immediately you see when the share of your credit cards go down in your business, you see that you're facing a problem. But that was an issue, and it might happen. But what I'm referring to is I'm not seeing the real jumping to 250 or to 260. I think that it's going to stay within the range of the 2, as it is today. It might go up to 208 to 209, and it will. But within that range, we're very safe.
Okay. And finally, Pancho, same question to you.
Well, we're very optimistic for the coming year. The economic situation in our countries, the airlines expansions, plus we, as multinationals, just opened our Tensa stores in the Bogota terminal in October, and we just opened in Quito, Ecuador, their new terminal there. And both of those also have, apart from departure, they also have arrival shops. So we see next year being a very positive year for Latin America.
Okay, thank you for your interesting comments, guys.
Okay, moving on to question 3. Which categories of merchandise are showing good growth for your operation at present, and which do you believe have unfulfilled potential at present? Joe, could we come maybe back to you for this one?
We're experiencing this year and last year, for that matter, good growth in basically all the categories. So, and that's driven by customer demand, marketing, promotions, what have you. And also the vendors have introduced some great products, innovative new products. So all that's powering a nice increase across the category line. And as far as the second part of that question, we do think there is some upside in beauty, fashion, luxury, and the food category, which continues to grow and surprise us. So those four categories we can see some additional growth in.
Nice to
in
have so
products.
many. With
It is,
that
yeah,
potential. Yeah. Pancho, how about you?
Very much like Joe. I mean, our traditional lines of liquor, perfumes, cigarettes, you know, they've held their own and they continue to grow. The confectionery and the food is starting to grow much quicker in larger proportions than the other. But it's a very positive year going forward, and we're always out looking for new items and see what comes up new, and every year something pops up, thank God.
Are there any specific products in your arrivals shops that perhaps move faster than the departure shops?
There is a difference between arrival and departure. For example, on arrival shops, you can sell bigger items, you can sell electronics, which usually you wouldn't buy departing, but you're not going to carry a television on board a plane. But on an arrival shop, it's very similar to border shops. You have a different mix of products for the arriving passenger.
And departures? I mean, what would be the highlights there in departures?
In departure, you have the highlight. Basically, the traditional.
What we would normally expect.
What we normally expect with your liquor, perfume, cigarettes.
Enrique, can I ask you that same question?
Yes, absolutely. This was a personal learning for myself because it's the first time I operate a border store, which is a completely different business than an airport. It's called duty free, but it's still different.
Well, we should probably point out there that you were president of Duty Free Americas.
Yes.
So you had a multi-dimensional business, didn't you, in the US?
Correct, correct. The first thing is the number of SKUs. That we currently have 95,000 active SKUs, which is a hell of a number to manage. Having said that, we saw that whenever you really start investing in treating well and properly a category and offering the retail experience to the customer, that category pops up. And the one that is the most noble one in reaction to that treatment is beauty and liquor. Those are the two categories that as soon as you start indulging the customer with them, you see the results. The second part that we also were happily surprised was fashion. And here it's what we define the affordable luxury of fashion. We don't believe that market is ready for the Dior's of the world, but yes, what is affordable luxury for them because it doesn't exist, like the Tommy Hilfigers or the Gaps or the Bananas of the world. And again, this is something that the shop-in-shop concept is something new for this customer, and it's been well received. So we have a really big focus on developing the fashion in that new way of selling it, and again, creating a real travel retail experience within the stores.
Thanks. And John, for your operation?
We've had, I think, the last probably 18 months, very good results in liquor, and it's very much kind of in-store promotions. So great success in that. So really good progress on that area, and looking at new things, price comparisons against other airports, and so on. Over the last 2 to 3 years, sunglasses has really grown exponentially with us. That continues to grow. So it's very, it's a really strong category for us.
Sure, one of our sponsors will be pleased to hear about that.
Yeah. And for us, confectionery is also very fast growing, and we've got a very strong mixture of international and local confectionery, and both of those categories do very well in very small space. And again, in our new shop, we're going to be looking at expanded space for those. Also, like I think, looking at new products is very important, and certainly I think in duty-free airports, what we're trying to focus on now is on the impulse areas, just to try to really have a good selection of impulse items, not like hundreds and hundreds of SKUs, but very, very selectively, good SKUs there that can actually sell well. And that'll get us our added spend for the passengers coming through. So all in all, I think categories are growing.
Any little unexpected gems that have sprung up that you could mention? Not necessarily a brand name.
There's a lot of them. Like for us, like traditionally, what's been very good has been the maple syrup. That's kind of it's really doing very, very strongly. It's one of our major items. Cookies and maple leaf cookies.
Destination merchandise.
Very destination merchandise. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
And on to our question 4. I'm going to ask, what are the 3 things you would like to see happen to your business in the Americas in 2013? Sort of your 3 wishes, I guess. And the first person I'm going to ask is Enrique.
Okay, the 3 wishes are that we keep the macroeconomics in place, that we still have our beloved Brazilians shopping all around and pushing the economy, and that we have the chance to expand. So make them happen.
Fairly straightforward. And Joe?
3 areas that are important to us. First of all, the liquids, aerosols, and gels, or the lags as we call them, is important and not yet complete. It was a great triumph for the industry getting together and agreeing on the STEBs for people connecting through airports to beyond flights. And it's increased sales, passenger service, and it's been a great step for the industry after those incidents in 2006. Nevertheless, there are a number of airports around the world which still don't accept the lags and the STEBs going through. And what that does is creates insecurity in some of the passengers who are going through airports which do accept them, because even though they're signing, people don't always read signs. So often they'll say, well, we're a little uncertain, why don't we not risk it and we'll buy someplace else. So what we would like to see is that get resolved, and so that all airports, major airports, are accepting the STEBs, and eventually, of course, eliminate the whole need for the STEBs, and with improved security. The second and third points, Doug, you mentioned at the beginning, we're in the Americas, and let's look at the travelers, which are our customers. And for international travelers, to travel to the United States, clearly President Obama's program of focusing on emerging countries, streamlining the process, and only adding additional staff so that people could complete their visas has been a great benefit, and it shows in the numbers. So we certainly hope that will continue and even get better. And the third and related subject, of course, for the international travelers themselves, when they do come to the U.S. and other countries, for that matter, in the Americas, there's long waits, there's a complicated process. And for the citizens to get in, the foreign travelers very often have to wait. It's an unpleasant process, so we'd like to see that improve over the next year or 2 as well.
So with those 3 things that you mentioned, how realistic do you think significant improvement can be in each of those sort of 3 wishes, if you like, in 2013 at least?
Well, hopefully there'll be improvement. I don't know how much the improvement will be, but it's, we've made great progress in the beginning, and hopefully we can resolve the STEBs issue. And for the travel into the U.S. from the standpoint of getting your visas and the standpoint of processing through, I mean, there's progress being made. But the international travelers are the staff of life for all of us, so the quicker that can be done, the better.
And with the STEBs, obviously, it's also about technology,
about
advancements, and whether obviously that it's safe enough, and
Yes.
that's always paramount, obviously,
Yes.
with US airports. So
Yes.
again, technology is a big part of that, not just the education side of it as well.
Very definitely.
Yeah. And this question for John.
Well, 3 things, I suppose probably the most important one is to continue great relationships that we have with our airport operators, our airports and landlords. And that is the most important thing, because if we don't have that, we can't work really properly in the airports. We've got great relationships with our airports, and they actually help us an awful lot. And in fact, the airports in Canada actually helped in terms of the US, the changes in the US customs rules. So they really kind of focused on that. The second thing, I think it's more of an industry thing, both for ourselves and the suppliers, really emphasising duty-free, like in terms of, what is there a price advantage, and emphasising that price advantage, or making sure there's proper travel retail exclusives. Because I think, particularly in the US, that very often there's not a huge difference between the domestic price and the price in the prices in duty-free. So what's going to make the customer to buy? And the third thing, it's just repeating what Joe said, I think the consistency in terms of the liquid regulations, I think that's really confusing for customers who are transiting through different airports, and it is stopping them by, they don't know what the rules are. And that makes it very difficult just to get those sales across.
You mentioned that price is a great motivator for people to buy in duty free, but what else can be done to motivate consumers to buy in duty free? Can there be communications to people before they fly and things like that?
I think before they fly, definitely. I think working closely with the airports and ourselves in terms of the communication, even within the terminal itself, can help. I think having innovative stuff, like having sort of multimedia type of things where people can see there's excitement and animation within the airport. People have time to spend in airports, and that's the big thing. So we have to capture that. They are there for like an hour, 2 hours, so we have to make the best opportunity of that we can. I think travel retail exclusives, though, is probably the route we have to go, because price advantage, we're never going to be that much cheaper, particularly in the States, than downtown.
Mm-hmm. And the term social media gets thrown about a lot in this industry, and I think there's a bit of a battle between, do we do social media and really get into it, or do we sort of, push it to the side? I mean, which camp are you on?
I'm still battling with it. But I think, again, there's so much infrastructure in the airports. When people come into airports, they have the smartphones, and if we can capture them when they come in and we can keep them engaged as they're going through security, and that they know there's an offering afterwards, there's no question it's a much cheaper way to capture people rather than giving signs around the airport, and we actually know who those passengers are. So I think social media and loyalty clubs and that type of thing are probably the way to go, so people actually will be almost, they're kind of aware of what's actually coming down the tracks when they come into the airport.
Sure. Okay, thank you for your comments. And Pancho.
Well, I think my wish list would be that the economy continues going, that in the airlines and the airports continue to grow. The other would be, as John mentioned, technology. Technology is a tool that we'll all have to learn to use better in order to have to reach our customers quicker and offer them directly. And the third thing, and not the least, is train our people that they sell the extra product to the passenger. Not that they just come in and pick up one thing or two things. The extra sale makes all the difference in the world for our type of business.
So yeah, you're talking about the upsell, obviously.
The upsell on them.
How easy is it to go in and try and motivate those staff to have that, motivation to upsell?
Easy it's not, but I mean, it's a matter of training and giving them prizes when they do it.
Exactly, yeah. Incentives. But it's not an easy sort of, logistically, it's not easy to go in and make sure each sales assistant is motivated. But
it's very difficult. But it takes time and training. And once they start to do it, they find out, hey, they can really do it. And once they do it, then the incentives start to fall in for them.
Absolutely. In duty free, there's a big trend for obviously luxury brands. It's definitely moving forward in a lot of regions. And is that the same for you? Is it always about premiumization and the sort of top luxury brands?
You have the top luxury brands, but you also have a lot of middle brands. You don't need the top luxury because it's much more affordable to a much larger range of people. And with if you go into the clothing, you have the Tommy's, as Enrique mentioned, you have the Hugo Bosses, and you have that level that reaches out and get a lot more. Undoubtedly, to have the Hermes, the Dior is very nice, but you're also limited to the amount of people you can sell it to.
So you need a balance.
You need a balance.
I think that's true of all duty-free markets. As the president of the IAA DFS, Pancho, would you like to make a final comment?
I think in general for the whole industry and of our section of the world, it's been a good year, and I hope the next year is a better year. And most important of everything, as we all know, is health. So if we all have health, we can all do better next year.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there we have it. All that remains is for us to thank our distinguished panel, Pancho, Enrique, Joe, and John. And I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Michael Payne, Executive Director at the International Association of Airport Duty-Free Stores, for all of his assistance with this project. Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end of our first TRBusiness Forum, and what have we learned? There's certainly a mood of overwhelming optimism from all our panel members, combined with improved market stability and expectation. Investment in new stores is at an all-time high, and improved access for overseas nationalities looks likely as US visa processes become easier. There has been sales growth without exception, and panel members pointed to the even greater boost the business could get with the resolution of the liquids and gels issue. However, continued stability and growth are dependent on stable markets and currencies. Once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors William Grant & Sons and Maui Jim for supporting this event. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.